This episode's all about crushing your hobby goals.
Welcome to Trident Wargaming, a podcast dedicated to all aspects of tabletop wargaming. Your hosts are Bill and Andy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Trident Wargaming. I'm your host Bill.
And I'm your other host Andy.
And today it's all about crushing your hobby goals. So on Trident, one of the big things is getting your stuff painted because, we stand by the build it, paint it, play it motto. And building and painting, it is a big part of the hobby. So we want to jump right into it and start talking about terrain. Terrain is a huge proponent, piece of the puzzle when you're playing tabletop gaming. And there's so many different kits and suppliers, manufacturers of all this different terrain, be it printed, MDF, laser cut, or just actual plastic kits and sprues. It's sky's the limit, honestly, for that kind of stuff.
No, for sure. There's lots of different terrain, and the whole question with terrain when you're trying to put it on the field, just like you're trying to put your armies on the field all painted, doesn't need to be a drastic, ambitious paint job. I know we've talked about this before in the past, and it's come up too in conversations with other people. Is does your terrain really need to stand out compared to your armies?
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know, how do we go about that? I know with us, we try to really simplify it. We've done some painting in the past for some events where it was just get the base colors on, punch them out, add a little bit of details, not too much, and bang them out on the table, and they end up looking great. So, what about yourself? What do you think about simplifying your terrain painting? Getting that backlog of terrain done, and ready for the board.
Well, it's definitely something that I'm going to be needing to do. I think with the terrain for sure, time management and planning will save you loads of wasted time or idling time, in the future. Right now, myself, I'm staring at a storage room. I've got a bunch of these totes full of terrain, 16 to be exact. Each tote is a table's worth, and only 5 of them are painted. So, I've got a lot of stuff to paint, and I still have a lot of stuff to build. But right now, what I've been doing to try and really, catapult some progress is get it all built, get it primed, and then I've been doing a lot of pre-shading just with rattle cans, right? Going with a gray and then a white just from top down out of 45. Just trying to kind of pre-shade the terrain a little bit so I can add some color without really having to lay on paint thick. Also, one thing that I do want to talk about real quick, and it's very informative, is there's actually a book called Terrain Essentials, and it's a book about making wargaming terrain. And it's a bunch of work that Mel has done from the Terrain Tutor. There's various videos on some of his stuff. There's a Facebook page. You can buy the book. We'll throw a link in the description as well so you can check it out. But using some of these actual tips in this book is going to really help save time in the future for these projects. They talk about everything from building terrain, flocking it, worrying about warpage. They've measured out kind of a general average of sizing. They talk about Dirge Washes or shotgun washes, which is basically, when you have the last little bit of your paint pot and it's empty almost, not really usable for airbrush or anything else, but don't throw it out. You can mix half the pot with water and flow improver and shake them up and pour them all into this kind of container, and that becomes your shotgun wash. And it's a very dark brown / black that's meant just for quick, super fast washes. Big brush, hit everything, and it just acts as a filter for your terrain. And it's a great use for, the last legs of your paint pots for sure.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, they've got a lot of cool stuff in there. I've been chatting here with Andy a little bit about the book and telling him all the different things that I'm, reading and finding out in here, and it's definitely worth the pickup if you want to go in depth. They talk about they have a terrain triangle in this book where it's basically you've got playability, durability, and realism, and these are the 3 cornerstones of any terrain. And they go into details where, if you have a club terrain or event terrain, how you really want it to be more playable and durable. Whereas if you're going for diorama settings or in-store demos, or even at your house, you can go more realistic and playable because durability is not as big of an issue because, you're handling it properly at home. Whereas clubs and events, we all know there's some of those guys that just, toss terrain back in and walk away, and makes me cringe. Makes me cringe.
Yeah, being a little abused, but yeah. Well used.
Well used, yeah. Let's just go with that, air quotes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, being a main painter, like for the club that we play at, Andy's painted some. There's a couple other guys that have painted as well. I think as people start painting the different kits and bringing it to the club, and then it's getting played with, I think they start to kind of feel that like, oh man, we should try and take better care of it. But
well, there's an appreciation, right?
There is, for sure. So yeah, that's what I've kind of been looking at to try and really pump up the terrain, focus. I know after May here, I'm going to be jumping into terrain pretty hard. And pardon?
I think we both were.
Yeah. Terrain needs to get hit. It's as important, as Andy mentioned before, as important as anything else on the table, especially as your armies. Does terrain have to be ultra high quality, paint wise? No, it just has to be striking, and it has to look good on the board. You don't really want it to take away from the models, because if you're playing on a board that is better than majority of the armies on there, that might kind of take away, I guess, from the immersion a little bit. So
for sure,
the focus is the models on the board, but yeah, the board just helps kind of put that little cherry on top and really seals in that setting, because you get to tell a story with your terrain as you play. So it's definitely tools to really help, right? Big brushes, I'm talking 1.5, 2, 3 inch brushes for your dry brushing, stuff like that. And let's not forget the airbrush. The airbrush is it's king for terrain. It really is.
That's kind of I was even thinking about the same thing with the airbrush, right? If you have access to one, or you own one, or somebody that does and is willing to actually put just base colors alone for you, hit it up, and spray it. Because wow, I can't go back to doing base colors and brush anymore ever. There's just, you save so much time, and especially with terrain, large surfaces. Even if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter, because other layers will just fix it up.
Yeah.
Right. So, definitely airbrushing if you can. Makes short work of terrain. I mean, I don't know, that month I spent making all those MDF, painting up all those MDF terrain. It was instantly just bang, 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 get it done, right?
Yep.
So, and you could even use it with washes.
Oh, for sure.
It's a little different, but you can definitely use washes, pre-shading, like you said before, and even just little specific highlights, like the light, the glow from a light, So it really helps. And even if you just put a little bit of that detail, it won't quite take away from the armies.
Exactly.
You still want your stuff to look good, right?
Oh, for sure.
So, but on another note too, is as you mentioned with like that book with having like realistic terrain and whatnot, and
Yeah.
event kind of terrain, the different games, there's different kits, but there's also some games where everything's scratch built,
Yeah.
right? Or it's more real. Like for bolt action for myself, it's more earth tones and realistic, right? So when you see it on the field, it doesn't quite take away from the armies, because the armies are all very earth tone as well. But when it looks like it's realistic, it's telling a story.
Yeah.
So definitely, take the time with it, take pride with it, but also know your limits of, where you want to kind of be and how much time you want to put in it to get it done. And then like sci-fi fantasy games, you're going to have a lot more brighter colors, so you can definitely experiment with that. Alien worlds, some high elf lands, stuff like that, hills, green rolling hills. It's just there's so much out there that can help you complete your target, to videos to help you with flocking, highlighting, pre-shading, all that stuff. It's all out there in books or videos, and even tools. How many different things have we learned in the last 2 to 3 years that has helped us with terrain?
Oh, tons.
And some of the best work. Like I've 2 kits I really, really enjoyed painting. Fortress of Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I dreaded it, but that Fortress of Redemption has sat at our local club for eons.
Like 5 years.
Yeah,
plus
eons. But now it's all done up and it looks fantastic, right? But
Oh yeah.
it was nice because there's a couple different techniques I was able to use on it. And then the other one was I think it was Void Shield Generator.
Yep.
And that actually turned out really nice. But it also let me experiment with some oddball colors that it's out of my comfort zone. But in the end, it turned out great. A nice simple wash, tied it all in. It's not too bright. Bang, done, So all in all, terrain, plan it out.
Yeah.
Best thing is be simple with it. At least in my opinion, and Bill obviously agrees. And try to enjoy it, because I know it could be a daunting task. It's not on the top of your list sometimes.
Yeah. It's definitely it's not like, everyone obviously wants to paint their own stuff, and that's always good. The more you can group orientate terrain building and painting, obviously right now with Nurgle doing his thing, it's not as easy, but when we do finally go back to rocking out as normal here, getting together, having a few brews, you're gonna dry brush, you're gonna do the airbrush, I'm gonna pick out these gold details or these red panels, and this guy's gonna do that, and like you get a little assembly line going, you can punch out a table easy in an afternoon.
Yeah,
it really doesn't take long. And don't be afraid to use all the different tools like in your disposal. Like I'm talking contrast paints, regular paints, air paints, sponging, chipping, like AK enamel washes. There's so many things. And a cool thing that I've learned even through painting terrain, referring to those dirge and / shotgun washes, if you're dry brush your main color on your buildings, let's just go gray for right now, and you want to airbrush a bunch of bronze, and then maybe pick out some tiling that's red and just give it a little mist, and you end up spraying over. The nice thing about these washes and the airbrush is, even with contrast paints, you can load it up back in your brush, airbrush around the outer edges of those bronze details, around the red, you know what I mean, and wash the model essentially. And you can go a little heavier where you oversprayed, and you'll never see it. That's the thing. The terrain is super forgiving, very easy to do. It's just, yeah, it should be fun. It shouldn't be a lot of stress. And we're going to be posting more pictures of the terrain that we do on Trident as we go, just to show you guys. And honestly, if you want, we might even post a few short videos of like, this is kind of how I do some basic, Imperial sector buildings. And I'm not talking the new ones, not the Sector Imperialis. I'm talking those old school Imperial sector city buildings, the manufactorums.
Oh, yes. The one with all the skulls and
the good stuff, right? Yeah. Old school.
All the spikes that you would catch your arm on.
Oh yeah, exactly. And even the Sector Mechanicus stuff that's out, like all the terrain is really good. Obviously these are GW kits, but we've got a bunch of, MDF kits, 3D printed kits. It's just, the list goes on. Kickstarters are really cool to jump onto for kits and terrain. There's so many things available now that there never was really before. So it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, and there's
see.
Oh, for sure. And there's lots of tools at your disposal, and not just by paints, but like I did a test run just from scratch with material that I've picked up here and there from like a local dollar shop, right? Some decorative rocks and whatnot, and using some foam and also some of the heavier flock that kind of bunches up for trees.
Yeah.
And went to local hardware shop and got some of the caulking and kind of made a little mixture and made like a hedgerow, and it turned out actually really, really good. And there's just different things, different techniques, and sometimes you find it out just by accident, right? Like, I'm going to try this. Oh, I never thought of doing that, especially with a lot of scratch built terrain, and I've been seeing a lot more of it and checking out some YouTube videos on how do you make this, or how do you make that marble effect, or what different ways there are for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also coming to scratch built stuff, when you see some of the stuff guys make and you can say to yourself, yeah, I can replicate that. I can do that. It's a great feeling. It's an awesome feeling, first off. Second off, you start getting your mindset to it, and next thing you know it, you got a whack load of it done. It's just, you end up getting this hype, right? And that's what we're really about, the hype of our projects.
Yep.
So anything that comes across your table, share it. Share it with your friends. Maybe you have a group that is dedicated to working on terrain for your hobby, right? For your local shop.
Yeah.
But it's great because there's lots of tools out there. There's lots of info. There's a whole whack of books. And a lot of times these books are very detailed, like this one that Bill was mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's crazy. And one thing we're kind of forgetting too is there are also a lot of pre-painted options out there now.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-painted MDF, plastic, almost like a resin slash, don't want to say ceramic, but kind of like that hydrocal style terrain. But there's tons of different painted options alone if you want to just go painted. They also have, some pre-painted foam terrain that you can buy for certain games. A lot of some of the guys that I've seen building just certain tables really explore the train sets, right? Like the little CN train engines running around and stuff. The scale is a little bit smaller, but when you're comparing it to, Space Marines and whatnot, but like for the trees and like rocks and rail carts and stuff like that, it's actually pretty decently scaled for the the setting of humans in the Dark Millennium, or Horus Heresy, or whatever the system may be. So it's just, yeah, there's so many options to explore, and we'll definitely do more more pictures and some more in-depth stuff like we mentioned before about the terrain, to actually showing a couple tricks to getting it all there. But just yeah, like, you know, to cap off like the terrain, you know, use all the tools, plan it out. The more planning, the better. If you can, write it down on a piece of paper. Email it to yourself. There's another tip that they talk about in this Terrain Tutor book, because, you know, you lose the paper or you think you remember it. At least if you write the project in the subject and then give yourself the paint recipe or the building plan that you are actually going to use, it's there forever. It is there forever in your email, and you can always find it. And very clever, because, you know, how did I get this building to look like that? I really can't remember the yellow I used, or I can't remember, you know, did I use the oxide? Did I use any of these technical colors? Did I use contrast or a clear? I don't remember. And it can be discouraging when you're really trying to replicate that one piece, and it's just off a little bit, and you're like, damn, what's happening here? So again, you know, planning it out and making it simple and easy to replicate is also a big thing. Yeah. So it's definitely,
there's one last thing I do want to mention with terrain, which actually will lead us into our next topic.
Yeah.
There's always the possibility of, if you're just too busy, you know, and you're not up to doing terrain, or you don't enjoy it, but you know other people do, there's always a possibility of commissioning it out.
Yep.
Right. And we know we've had some people have actually done that, where they've worked on terrain, and, you know, you pay them the price for it, and next thing you know, you have a boatload of terrain all done up.
Yep.
So yeah. So in saying that, you know, that's another easy way of getting stuff done if you need to.
For sure.
But I guess that kind of will lead into our next topic.
With the, like, painting your army quick and easy, getting it on the tabletop faster. I'll go through just a little bit of the process that I actually use for my word bearers. Mm-hmm. So, you know, pledging my word bearers, really wanting a bunch of stuff done and painted, trying to come up with that, you know, that nice, rich word bearers color, and really trying to emulate some of the pictures that I've found in the Collected Visions books, and just some of the general art books that have a bunch of, you know, the word bearers in it. What I ended up trying to do was I experimented with some pre-shading. So I would just have my prime models black, and I would do a pre-shade / zenithal highlight from top down only, using like a white painter's ink. And from there, I started to experiment with some contrast, and really tried to get that color pop happening. And, you know, I experimented with some corn red. I experimented with a blood red. I tried to, you know, max some orange in there. I had test model kind of coming out like blood angels, so on the right track, but not quite what I was looking for. Loyalist scum. So then I ended up going to contrast flesh terrors red, which is much darker and richer. Sprayed that on, let it dry on my test model, which was 40k Chaos Space Marine. And like power armor, if you're testing it on power armor, it really doesn't matter. Just always try and test it out. See how it's going to look. You know, did some trim. I kind of really liked how it turned out. I, you know, sealed it. Did a AK enamel wash real quick. And, you know, after I cleaned it up, like, it was quick. It was easy. I think the hardest part, honestly, was just painting my silver trim and not trying to, you know, bump any of the red. But very, very easy to replicate, very quick. So I decided to take the plunge and do it to a squad. Went fast, and just, you know, rinse and repeat. Continue the same steps. Do your highlight with the white, spray your contrast, go to town, and do it consistent. You know, try and do them in batches, or at least per squad basis. Don't break it up like half the squad today and half the squad tomorrow. Just get your main colors on all in one shot is what I would recommend, to have a consistent color across the board. Just, you never know, you might have a little bit of a heavy finger one day, spraying way too much contrast to come out way darker, or not enough contrast and they're coming out lighter. It's just, you really got to make sure it's consistent, because it helps quite a bit. But yeah, that's kind of where I was looking at, trying to get this army quick. I left all my shoulder pads off. I airbrushed all my shoulder pads with a quick highlight. Everything again, after I cut and trim, it's all sealed. It's all getting washed. The nice thing about this AK and ammo wash is, and this is the streaking grime stuff, guys, that we've mentioned before, but I'm just blocking in colors. I'm not washing anything. I'm just blocking it in. I'm not highlighting anything right now. I just get it all on there, wash it, clean it up with the white spirits. Once it's done, I go through and I pick out little spots that I actually want to bring attention to. So, I'll touch up some of the green in the eye lenses and add that little dot of white at the back to make it look like it's an actual lens that's on. I might go through here and there and just add a little bit of chipping around the greaves and around the shoulders, and distress the leather a little bit, and maybe edge highlight that pistol or the sword on that one, on the one side edge. But very, very minimal is needed, like, to really make that model pop. And as we're doing this painting pledge, I'm seeing how fast a squad can come together. And, I'm kind of kicking myself, little bits here and there for not leaving bolters and chain swords separate, where I could actually airbrush them all black instead of hand painting it. And then, like, saving steps where you can. But the biggest thing, with getting your army from paint table to tabletop is time management, because you don't want to be painting and playing back and forth. So, you've got your army, they're all set up, they're ready to go. You start painting, it was a great weekend. Hey, you want to have a game? Sure. So you pack up all your stuff, head down to wherever, you play your game, pack it all back. You could get chipping, damage. If you're just airbrushing is really thin. So after handling the model a little bit on the pauldrons or on the elbows, knees, you'll actually start to see some wear if you're handling them too much.
Yeah, it starts to rub off.
Yeah. So, that it's just, oh man, now I got to go back and fix this. And, like, let's be real, like, that's a pain in the ass. No one wants to do that stuff. So it's just it's not the way. So if you can play something else in the meantime, that's another great way to do it, or at least get the main batches done and seal those bastards, because you don't want to rub paint off or chip or insert thing here. You know what I mean? Like, anything that can and will happen probably will happen. So,
no, for sure. I know, like, with the current project with the white scars, as I talked with Bill before, I ended up trying out this new white and realized that it tends to reactivate with any other colors I put on it. So I can just imagine what it would be like if I was handling these things, bringing them back and forth to a game.
Oh,
you know, and like, I have done that in the past, and yeah, it is a pain. It definitely is a pain, and probably won't do that again, right? It's okay. These guys are on the painting table. That's it. Yeah. So definitely work on those projects. Definitely, get them done or get them to a state, like Bill said, you can seal them. You'll be thanking yourself later.
Yeah.
You don't have to go back and do that layer and layer to fix them. So other than that, like, painting the white scars with all these extra little markings and whatnot that I'll have to do, some of them freehand, and some of them, they actually go through this huge process of a metamorphosis where the whole model gets taped off just to do a certain amount of markings on the front end of the bike. It's well worth it. It's a little bit time consuming, but I'm only doing 5 of them at a time.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not doing a 20-man squad. So, also think about that. Think about what you can manage. Think about what's your comfortable level of what you think you could get done in that short period of time, right? Because that's the last thing you want. And you know what? There's some armies that are worse than others, and across all systems, when you have a horde army, it's a bit different.
Oh, yeah.
But then that's when you have to realize and say to yourself, okay, these are just the frontline infantry or troop choices that are more than likely going to get taken off the board turn 1.
Or in droves.
Exactly. So, are you going to spend so many hours on 3 of them? Probably not.
Yeah.
Make it simple, make it fit your theme, and you're good to go.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good way to do it. I know on average, and this is after my airbrushing stuff is done, like, okay, everything's airbrushed, I'm ready to cut and trim. I'd say I'm spending about 30 minutes a model to cut in my trim, dot the I's, ammo pouches, weapons, and that's not a lot of time, so you really have to be on the ball with time management. You don't want to have idling time. You want to do stuff in stages where you're not going back and forth, right? So if you got to paint black, paint all the black. Bang them out in batches of 5 or 10 and crank out. Put on an audiobook, listen to some YouTube videos, put on, painting videos, like if it helps inspire you to go. But you really got to just bang through and get it done, because it's part of it. Although there are people who just don't want to paint, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Or just don't have the time to paint, right? There's so many reasons why you don't get your stuff painted. Like myself, actually, so this is kind of like a precursor to the next topic we're going to talk about, but for my Word Bearers army, I'm running, it's a sacrificial offering red war, lets me take a lot of militia, so I have a wicked amount of cultists. I have 100 cultists, and I painted 20 That's back in, no, it's so good.
It's too much.
So I painted 20 of them last year, and it took me about, 2.5 weeks, and that was some steady painting. And after painting those 20, I just kind of looked at those other 80, and I don't want to do that. I can only paint so much, and I know painting 80 cultists, I'm going to suffer the burnout. Doesn't matter how much fun I make it, it's going to be a burnout. And let's be real, I want to paint Wordbearer Space Marines, not lowly cultists. So a tool that is easily used, and not even just a tool, a service, right? It is actual commission painters. Yeah. I ended up getting Matt from Seventh Forge Studios. He's a local guy. And I talked with him and said, hey, these are some of the pictures of my cultists. How much to paint, 80. We kind of talked about it, gave me a price. I showed up, dropped off my stuff to him. He's painting them currently. It's nice to have that as an option, because I don't have that much time. You work full time, you got to be a dad, got kids, everything else. I only have so much hobby time. And if I'm burning out spending, 2 months painting lowly cultists, I'm not painting the juicy stuff. The Marines, the Galvorback, the Dreadnoughts, the Terminators, the cool stuff. The
Primarch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, it's just, it's something that, I explored, and it's a good thing. I know leading... Well, I guess before we get too crazy into it, right? It's just, Monty, I guess with your White Scars, what was some of the planning that you did to kind of ensure like your roadmap to success with your pledge and your painting? What was the stuff that you planned out?
So yeah, so like I said before, pretty much the number, like how much I thought for sure I could get done, because let's face it, they're heresy models.
Yeah.
They're not cheap.
Nope.
And you want to do the best you can on them, right? So definitely a decision of how much I'm going to paint, try to get done.
Yep.
What I know I can get done. Also, okay, I know I'm painting white. I know painting white can be a bit of troublesome sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I actually tested out a few whites, right? And I've painted some white before, and I get a lot of like splatter.
Yeah.
And then I found this next white that it actually went on really smooth, and I made them really bright because I've planned to again use the enamel wash, and this will be the first time I'm using it. So pretty much picked out my colors, picked out my white. I tried my reds to see which one I preferred. Found that one, and then picked a bit of a highlight with I think it's an orange, Evil Suns, I believe, or something like that. The red. Just kind of planned out what colors I'm going to use and try to limit how many colors I'm going to use, right? Because I don't want to be going and taking 20 paints and trying to apply it to these models. I just want to make it simple, but make them look good. And then from there on in, I pretty much just, okay, these are the colors I'm working on tonight. This is what I'm getting done. Block them in. Do the first 5 jet bikes. Get that in. Okay, I need to do silver. Let's do the silvers. Get it all done. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, you also got to look at your models. Yeah. If you're doing infantry, and they've got guns that are slung across their chest, kind of thing. If you can remove those guns, it's a good way of getting your model painted without any interference, right? The other thing is the prep. So with my jet bikes and the riders, and if you've seen our Facebook page, you've seen my riders. They're all, Vlad the Impaler on toothpick ends.
That's right.
People have cringed when they've seen those pictures. But that prep time, like, I know you're not going to see the underbelly of that model. So that's where I'm posting them, right? And it gives you a good handle for when you're spraying, for when you're putting on your other colors, your base colors, because now you can get into those angles without actually handling the model, right? Like you said, airbrushing, it's very light. And like I said before, with this white, I found that this white kind of interacts with any colors I put onto it. So you have to be very, very diligent, and you can't really be mixing it too much, right? So going forward with that kind of was my planning, and it was just sit down for an hour of a time and just get stuff done, right? Get to a point, get it done. When it came to the markings, because I left that last, because I wasn't quite sure of how I was going to do it, I literally just said, screw it. I'm taking one and I'm experimenting, right? So painter's tape, modeling tape, just lined up my lines, checked it over. Okay, cool. Good. Planned it out where, am I going to have some overspray now? And sure enough, I will. So literally the whole model had to be cocooned, Yeah. So that's where the time is going to be taken away. Just to spray that dag in the front of the scoop of the jet bike, it's going to take me 20 minutes, even though it's a quick minute spray, right?
But it will pay dividends down the road, right?
Yes.
And there are ways you can cheat, like if you're trying to mask off your model, cling wrap. Mm-hmm. cling wrap like you would use to cover your food, that stuff works really, really good. There's also little tricks if you're actually spraying using the painter's tape like Tamiya or anything modeling tape like that is, and I've done it a lot with my Iron Warriors where, okay, so I want to spray hazard stripes on my vehicles. So, I lay down a nice base of black, tape it all off. Well, do not proceed to yellow just yet. What I would recommend is spraying over your tape with black one more time. And you'll ask, why? Why would I do that? Well, it's actually going to seal the tape line. And if you have, like, any bleed through that's going to come through is black on black, which now seals the tape. Then you can go through and build up your orange or your brown, depending how you want to start your yellow. Go brown, orange to a nice bright yellow. You pull that tape back. I guarantee you will not have any bleed through. It's one thing to consider. It takes an extra 2 seconds, and it'll save you a lot of disappointment. But that's not to say if you do get bleed through, you just chip that thing. Chip it up. Battle damage. Cover there, just like Bob Ross says, right? There's no mistakes. There's just happy little accidents, and that's true. It's just a real artist, and that's the thing. We're artists, we're gamers, but we're artists. Real artists don't have to scrub the whole model and start over.
That's true.
You can fix that. Get creative, battle damage it. Do what you can, but you can fix that. I believe that you can.
Tie it into the model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
You don't get discouraged by it. You just add it to the model. Do something with it.
Yeah.
Right?
And
that's good.
If something is going sideways on you, it's okay to take a quick break from it as well. When I was painting my bolt action Sherman tank, I was doing some stuff that I've never actually done before. I had chipping medium that I sprayed on my tank, airbrushed a bunch of colors on it, got a bunch of enamel paints. I was doing streaking, making it look cool and all rusted. And then I'm like, well, I'm gonna really just I'm gonna wash the whole model and just really take it all together. As soon as I washed that model with watered down flow improver wash, the whole model started blistering. Everything started blistering. And I was freaking out because I was like, oh my god. I'm like, this model's trashed. I was like, I just trashed my tank. And I was upset because, here I'm trying to use compressed air and blow the wash off and kind of dabbing up with a light paper towel kind of here and there just to get the wash off. And it's bubbling. It's actually looks like it's blistering. And if I slid my finger across, that whole thing would be stripped right down to nothing. So took a sponge, kind of dabbing it a little bit. Little bits are starting to chip off, and I'm like, oh man, this is getting crazy. And I just, take a break, let it dry. I'll come back. We'll see what happens. And the spots that I didn't actually agitate at all, everything actually went back down and went flat again. So it's sometimes it's an experiment if you're using products you've never used before, like that chipping medium, or I believe this was the MIG heavy chipping fluid I was using. But if it's not turning out, take a break, just wait, let it dry. If it's really crazy, try to seal it. Try to, stop it where it is, and maybe try and touch up a little bit. But just the biggest thing I'm trying to hammer without ranting is just, don't give up on the current project. Even if it's not turning out the way you think it's going to, you'd be surprised. Sometimes, even my stuff, if I'm painting my army from steps 1 to 6, by step 4, almost step 5, it's still not quite there. And then once you get that last little bit, the wash, when you filter everything over, or you add that little detail, sometimes it comes together right at the end. So I would definitely persevere, push through with your project, and as artists, you'll keep learning from your mistakes. So it's just I certainly have, and now you kind of know what to expect when you're using these products too, right?
For sure.
It's a big thing. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of. You'll always experiment. You'll
Yeah.
always learn something. So just take it with the stride, and you'll be good to go, and you'll be better at it. You'll know the more product because there's tons of product out there.
Oh, there is.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So I guess that slides us into our last topic here, crushing hobby goals. So we touched base a little bit about it, but commission painting.
Mm-hmm.
Commission painting is a awesome tool / service available to us as players and hobbyists. I know for a little while there, it kind of had, and it might still has almost like a stigma against it. And to me, I'm not really sure why, because all you're doing, like by using commission painters, you are you're supplementing someone's income, which is always good to help people out, right? And they're providing you a service, which is saving you either time, energy, both these things. And time is money, so it makes sense, but it's just you're letting these people share their artwork, share their passion with you. You're using money to pay them, and obviously you're paying a varying degree of, I guess it depends on your quality that you're looking for, but I would say majority of those painters out there, that if they're struggling or they're starting to hit that wall, to consider using commission painters. And local's always good. I mentioned earlier in the cast there, like Matt at Seventh Forge Studios, like doing my cultists. He's a local guy. He's cranking out. He's doing a lot of work. And there's a lot of cool stuff, and we'll have links in the description, you guys, for these the artists' Instagrams, so you can actually take a peek. Because some of the stuff they're churning out, it's awesome. It's super, super good.
Definitely,
So.
we have a mutual friend that he's played the games, and he's not really a painter. He doesn't really enjoy the painting.
Yeah,
and he mainly was playing bolt action, but he also was playing some 40k, and he got into it, and he's going after a Tzinch army, and he tried his hand again at painting. And then the one day he just messaged me, I can't do it. I don't have the love for it. I can't do it. So I encouraged him. I told him, well, you tried, you gave it a shot. And then he actually asked me if I knew any commission painters, because Matt was actually booked solid.
yeah,
So I pretty much reached out to Phil at My Little Pony Game Studios.
yeah.
And he got in contact with him, and he did up. It was nice because he got this custom demon prints done.
Oh yeah,
which is one of a kind. And then he got Phil to commission paint it, and it looks fantastic. And he was so super happy with it. Right, he just loves it. It's his showpiece of his army, and he reached out, and he thanked me for introducing him to Phil, right? So not only are you getting your stuff done up for your games, but you're helping that artist, you're paying for a service, and it's a positive in both ways, right? Because these artists, these studios, or guys who are doing commission painting, it's not just commission painting that they're doing, right?
yep.
Like they give you a lot of advice.
Oh yeah,
Some of them have channels out there, or streaming, or videos. Kenny Boucher at Next Level Painting, he has tons and tons of videos of just little tips and tricks. So it's very, in my opinion, it's very, very positive. It's a great way to incorporate what some people love to do and have made it into almost their career. Right?
Yeah. Oh, for
You
sure.
got to think of how many years these individuals have been doing it for. And you might not know their background. They might actually have that artist background.
Yeah.
And if they love doing it and they're making it a career out of their hobby, all the power to them. And all the
That's
power
the dream.
and for sure, if I could do it, I would. And all the power to any of those players that aren't up to painting their army. Like
Yep.
if they're because we know some guys who just they're not painters. They don't enjoy it. They think it's too hard, or they think it's a chore, and they'd rather have somebody else paint it up, right?
Yep.
So
Which is totally fine, and
totally.
there's even times where you may not want to build models, and there's people that commission build for you too. You know what I mean? Like it goes all the ways. Another local guy is Arthur at Third Legion Painting, where he again puts out good work. Can give awesome pricing. Like, these local painters are great to work with. Also, being local, you get to see the benefit of using them for commissions. It's great because you get to you might bump into them at the shop and you're like, hey, check it out, man, here's the army, and you're rocking on the tabletop and he gets to see his artwork like in person, and it's just there's so many positives that go along with the commission painting that I think get overlooked a lot of times. I know, like Andy mentioned, online with the classes and Patreon, like with Kenny at Next Level Painting, it's a great resource. It turned me on to a lot of different techniques when I first got into airbrushing. I ended up subscribing to his Patreon and watching all these YouTube videos, and I really liked the approach he took, and it cranked out. And it's a very unique way of painting. He's got like an actual Next Level Painting system where he goes through all these, and I quote, right, 6 transitions, and then we're doing highlighting, washing it down, and some of these models turn out fantastic. Well, all of them do, I should say. I shouldn't say some. All of them do. And like, if you play Death Guard, if you play Blood Angels, I know Kenny's currently doing a Blood Angel
That's right.
like army for himself, and you check them out. These models are amazing. Like, they really look awesome. Another guy online who's really good, really good, is Miles David with Low Legend Studios. It's crazy, some of the stuff he puts out. I know he just recently did a Magnus the Red and Lehman Russ like Primarch tutorial, and he again also has a Patreon with classes. We'll go into depth about what both of those guys offer on another video. We're actually planning on doing an interview with both of them, and talking to them about the different things that they offer on their Patreon. I've actually bought a few of the PDF downloads off of Miles' Patreon for painting Horus Heresy Legions, and I found it to be very nice because it's download it, you've got it, you can always refer to it. It's very handy. These are just all the different ways now you can interact and you can draw inspiration from for your collections. But these are 2 different guys that I've actually paid and like given money to for be it videos, content, you name it, learning some techniques. But I feel like it's money well spent. It really is. It's definitely allowed me to push my boundaries, and then I can recommend it and talk to friends about it and try and get more people turn to that kind of stuff. Like, and there's still a ton of free content out there if you don't want to pay. But if you do pay, like, your money is going to these guys so they can continue doing what they're doing.
No, that's exactly right. Exactly right. I really think like it's wicked awesome that both client and like pro painter uh, actually benefit from each other,
Oh yeah.
right? Like I have a couple points here where one, your stuff gets painted,
Yeah.
right? And that's the ultimate goal, is to have your army painted. And of course it all depends on what quality, because they always offer different services from tabletop quality to studio quality, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so one, you get stuff painted and it gets put on the board. That's wicked awesome. I love it. Like when I see that, even if it's just a 5-man war band for like Warhammer Underworlds, right? It looks so good, right?
Yeah.
Painted armies play better. What can we say, right?
That they do. Unless it's the first game that you have your painted model, then it's gonna die.
Yeah,
No matter what.
Exactly.
No matter what. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, that fresh.
Yeah, the fresh unit, it always goes down. The dice gods see it and they laugh and they go, "You're not even gonna fire a shot. It's over, buddy."
Another point is, from my point of view, is you're supporting, like I've said before, you're supporting this painter and the love of the hobby, right? This is what they love to do. They're at that point where they are loving doing this. They continue doing it. They continue bringing out great product in different styles and amazing paint jobs, and the pride that they have and the amount of hours that they spend on working on this stuff is just fantastic, and it keeps bringing more of this kind of stuff to the table, to YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff, right? Plus, they have a lot of, again, support stuff on the sides to help you as a painter to get better, right? Little tips and tricks, videos, all that stuff. So the shareable content that they have is awesome. The bond between player and painter, even if you're just watching them videos like Kenny, he's pretty entertaining to watch as he's on his channel, right? So supporting that painter is wicked awesome, right? You get to see a lot of that stuff. I wish 25 years ago that we had all this at our fingertips.
Oh yeah.
Because right now I think everybody would be producing pro quality armies, kind of thing, right? So a third one that might be slightly overseen is there's a bit of a bonus to having a pro painted commissioned army. Is, let's say you've had this army for a few years, you've played, for a better lack of word, crap out of it,
Yeah.
and you've decided, what, I'm going to go with a different army, and I'm probably going to pass this army on, right? Sell it or whatever. Well, that army is still pro painted, and it's going to hold some value, right?
Yeah.
Somebody out there is going to love it, and they will want to pay a decent penny for it, right? So you're always able to flip that and then invest back into your other army.
Yep.
So that's kind of something that's a little overlooked. It's a great thing, because when you see this beautiful army on the table, and then all of a sudden you're parting with it, and somebody really wants it, they're going to really want it. They're going to approach you and like, hey, like, Bill, how many times have you had somebody just from Instagram, just message you out of the blue and ask you if, hey, is that for sale?
It's actually happened a couple times with the executioners. I've had 3 different offers to buy the army when it's done.
Yeah. So
those
are like 3 points. Yeah, exactly. So those are kind of 3 points that I kind of had, that it's just great. It's great. There's so many more positive qualities to that if that's the route you want to go, you know. And I guess another thing too is like giving credit where it's due,
Oh, for sure.
right? So I know I've talked with Matt about this, having, you know, one of his models kind of entered into a contest for painting, and giving him credit,
Yeah.
like, for his paint job. In my opinion, if I was to do that, let's say I had something painted by whoever, and it won, I would actually take that prize and give it to them,
Yeah.
right? Because myself, you know, like I love the art, I love the painting. I always have a fascination for a lot of old school artwork. You know, did some in the past myself, but just having and having that feeling in the back of my head, and knowing that the amount of time and work that's been put into these projects, I'm gonna definitely give credit to the artist. You know, so all in all, it's crazy how many there are, how many commission painters there are. First off,
Mm-hmm.
but you have lots of options, and it's
There are.
such a positive thing.
Yep.
I love it. It's just wicked. So and it's great because you can literally search for, you know, the style of painter you want,
Yep.
right? You know, like a couple of guys, one of the local guys, he does very vibrant colors, a lot of blending, like just vibrant, and it all works together. It's wicked awesome, right? You have the guys that do more realistic painting, you know, or more toned down, battle damaged, kind of looks like this marine has gone through the shit, you know, kind of paint jobs, which people just love. So all the power to you if you're going with a commission painter, and all the power to the commission painters for doing what they do.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it is good. It's a good thing. It's a positive thing for the community as a whole. It's really taken off in the last number of years, where it's so widely available. You know, depending on what your situation is, be it time or just, you know, no drive or just unable to do it, it's always an option. And keep your options open, right? Like these artists are excited to work on your project as much as you are to get it back and share your vision with them too. So it's just, yeah, it's never a bad thing to go down that road. It's useful in all aspects, and yeah, be it with terrain or your army or both, or just, you know, diorama pieces. It's just, yeah, I would highly recommend doing it. You know, I know one time I tried to ask Arthur if he wanted to paint all the belts and straps and buckles on my orc boys, because I didn't want to do it, and he laughed and said no, because he doesn't want to do it either.
Oh boy.
And I was like, oh, I was really hoping there. He's like, I don't even know what I should charge you for that. I was like $2, do it, you know, because I got 180 boys and I'm good with that. It's gonna save me probably, you know, I don't know how many man hours of time. So it's just, yeah, it's a lot of fun, and yeah, I find that the prices are always very reasonable, and yeah, easy to deal with, right? Especially if you're getting the quality content that they're putting out. So
Oh, for sure.
it's a lot of good
For sure.
stuff. It's a lot of good stuff. We will definitely come back to this subject a few more times, maybe with pictures showing like step by step, maybe videos. You know, let us know what you want to see. Talk to us in the comments, hit us up. There's been a lot more chatter in the last few posts for podcasts and whatnot that we've been doing, which is great. We love to hear from you guys, so definitely hit us up on there. Also, do not forget, enter in follow, tag your friends, for the Ravener limited edition Ravener Return giveaway that we're doing. We're cranking out, we're getting closer to that 350 mark. So once we hit 350, we're going to do the live draw and send that book out to one of the lucky followers. So yeah, please jump on board. Don't miss your chance, because it's just one of our ways to say thank you. So
Yep.
And if you think we missed anything, or if we overlooked something, or if we didn't quite hammer something enough, just let us know. We'll definitely do another topic, because this is part of it. This is all part of that Trident motto is build it, paint it, play it. So these are the cornerstones of our tabletop wargaming hobby.
Yeah, exactly. And share your experiences with us too.
Yeah.
If you got stuff that you had commission painted, send us pics.
Oh yeah.
Definitely put it on our page. All that jazz, right?
Yeah.
So we'd love to see that stuff. It's always good to see the posts and just start flicking through posts and pictures, and you get hyped. Oh, that looks so awesome, right? Yeah. So we just love that stuff, and I'm sure you guys do too.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's about it for this episode.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
So, thank you for tuning in and listening and/or watching. We appreciate the support, and we will catch you next time.
See you guys.